Hi everyone, welcome to Difference Frames the World, a channel where you can see the world from a different angle. Please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification so you will not miss our videos uploaded every week. Before the video starts, we want to share the good news with viewers that YouTube has monetized the channel, so DFTW can get some pennies again when viewers watch advertisements on our videos. Although the income from advertisers is ignorable, it can still help us move forward somehow. Today we talk about the intercontinental ballistic missile test China carried out on September 25, 2024. The missile hit the target on the high seas of the Pacific Ocean and reportedly sparked protests from a few neighboring countries. China says it informed relevant countries, but Japan, Australia, and New Zealand were not among those countries. The test fire was rare, the first time in the past for decades, and the previous one was launched in 1980, 44 years ago. Beijing says the test was routine and not aimed at any country or target, which is a typical diplomatic statement. The range of the ICBM is estimated to be 12,000 kilometers, able to cover the key areas of Beijing's potential threats. Even though Beijing denies that the test was aimed at any country or target, it shows China is unwilling to hide its anger at provocations in the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea from certain countries and regions. The launch will lead to tensions across the Asia-Pacific area, the so-called Indo-Pacific region, as it highlights China's long-range nuclear capabilities, which become stronger every day. 2 years ago, we said that China should build a nuclear arsenal of at least 1,000 warheads to protect its land and people. Even a small country, Israel, with merely 9 million people, less than 1% of China's population, is said to possess more nuclear bombs than China. The United States warned in 2023 that China had increased its nuclear warheads to upgrade its national defense, and analysts believed that Beijing's intercontinental ballistic missile could travel thousands of miles to strike the U.S. mainland and Hawaii. The Western countries tend to exaggerate China's threat, but no one denies Beijing's nuclear arsenal is still estimated at less than 20% of the United States and Russia. Since the explosion of China's atomic bomb in the 1960s, China has told the world that it would not use the atomic bombs first, and that its nuclear arsenal is only for deterrence, not aggression. Let us delve into the announcement from Beijing for details of the test before going any further. Beijing said the long-range missile was launched at 8:44 local time, or 4:44 Greenwich Mean Time. It carried a dummy warhead and landed in the designated area, which the official media did not disclose. Reports from various sources point out it should be in the South Pacific. The Chinese Defense Ministry stressed the test launch was routine and part of its annual training, with no targeted countries or regions. It is worth mentioning that China usually tests its ballistic missiles internally or within its territory. Beijing previously fired ICBMs west into the Taklamakan Desert in the Xinjiang province. The recent test fire is beyond its land, into the high seas of the Pacific Ocean, for the first time in its history. For other countries like the United States and Russia, testing missiles internationally is not unusual, but for China, it is rare and means more than it appears. It shows China's increasing changes to modernize its nuclear deterrence, and it also tells the world that China is changing its approach as well. For a long time, China has been confining itself and focused on protecting its land and people from external invasion. Now its rivals should know that China can also bring pain to their front and backyards if they dare to do something to the country. The test fire has triggered an immediate reaction from certain countries. Japan is the one that shouts the loudest. It protested that it had received no notice in advance and expressed serious concern. Another country, Australia, a key member of the anti-China circle, AUKUS, said the action was destabilizing and raises the risk of miscalculation in the region, and that it had sought an explanation from Beijing. It is noteworthy that Australia has been siding with the US and the UK to build nuclear submarines, which China is not happy with. The ICBM from Beijing dropped into the South Pacific, not too far from Australia, which might be one of the reasons why Australia staged a protest. We do not think China aimed to warn Australia of its participation in AUKUS submarine construction. Still, we can easily conclude that if China is as aggressive as Australia's allies, like the US and the UK, the distance between China and Australia can be much shorter than that between Australia and the United States. China is not belligerent, so most countries take it for granted that Beijing should be humble and constrained. In the Five Eyes, New Zealand is the only one willing to maintain a friendly relationship with Beijing. Still, it called the test fire an unwelcome and concerning development. New Zealand does not believe China's actions were primarily designed to send a political message, but the launch of the Chinese ICBM internationally was a stark reminder to the region and the US that nuclear dynamics in Asia are quickly changing. China's long-range missile test fire is a wake-up call for the US and its allies in the region to deal with China's affairs carefully. The test sends a clear political message to the United States that a direct intervention in a potential conflict across the Taiwan Strait would involve the American homeland being vulnerable to attack. If China fires its long-range hypersonic missiles via the North Pole, most lands or waters of the US and its allies will not be beyond their striking range. China's ICBM test demonstrates its capabilities to fight on multiple fronts simultaneously. Even though China claims the launch does not target any country or region, many countries in the area, like Japan, Australia, the Philippines, and Vietnam, which are hostile to Beijing, feel it another way. Japan and China have disputed waters and islands, and ships from the Philippines and China constantly collided in the South China Sea's disputed shoals. The tension between China and its ununited province, Taiwan, also ramped up recently after the new Taiwan leader openly cast his Taiwan independence remarks, and the relationship between Beijing and Washington was also moving in the wrong direction when the latter announced arms sales to the island. China has been carrying out intensive missile firing and other drills recently to warn against external influences. Beijing allegedly launched gray zone warfare with its Coast Guard ships, patrolling the island's waters regularly, and it also routinely sends its warships and aircraft into the island's waters and airspace to demonstrate its territorial claim to the breakaway province. China also gets tougher with the United States. In July 2024, Beijing paused its nuclear arms control talks with Washington, in retaliation for the continuous sales of American arms to Taiwan. For years, the US has relentlessly tried to get China into the arms control framework, hoping to slow down its nuclear modernization progress. Unlike the US or Russia, China never disclosed the number of its nuclear warheads. The Pentagon estimated that Beijing has over 500 atomic bombs deployed, of which 350 are intercontinental ballistic missiles. In its 2023 annual report, the U.S. Defense Ministry says China has over 500 nuclear warheads, exceeding its earlier estimates. The report also projected that China will reach over 1,000 warheads by 2030, and most of them will be deployed at a higher level of readiness. The size of China's nuclear arsenal is Beijing's top secret. Still, the country never denies that it is capable of sending its warheads to designated areas with its advanced and reliable delivery systems. Unlike most countries that rely on America's GPS for navigation, China has its global positioning system, Beidou, which performs better than the GPS. The latest data shows that in February 2022, the positioning accuracy of the B1C frequency point of the Beidou system was 1.76 meters horizontally, 3.14 meters vertically, and 0.49 meters in space. Those of the American GPS were 2.23 meters, 4.28 meters, and 0.85 meters, respectively. The Chinese positioning system was at least 20% better than the GPS in 2022, and with the final Beidou 3 satellites sent to orbit a week ago, the gap should be even bigger. In recent years, Chinese hypersonic missiles have presented an additional challenge to countries hostile to Beijing. To make matters even worse, Chinese engineers are developing air-breathing engines such as scramjets to bring high speeds and maneuvers to their hypersonic cruise vehicles. The US is left way behind in developing hypersonic weapons, and the failure rate is high. Another key player, Russia, also has a high failure rate of ICBM tests, reported to be 4 out of 5 tests. A recent report several days ago said Russia had seemingly failed when testing for its Sarmat ICBM. The Chinese military's announcement of the test fire is short, saying it is in line with international law and practice, and is not directed against any country or target. In short, China follows the rules-based international order, believe it or not.